Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, our mission is to deep dive into one of the observation records of Tommy Yoshida, known in Japan as Tommy Yoshida.
Right, and it's a really fascinating one.
It really is. But before we get any further, we need to set some ground rules with you.
Yeah, this is important.
Because this particular deep dive has a very unique premise. If you're tuning in today to hear us, evaluate the latest AI models
Or to get a tutorial on how to use AI to boost your productivity.
Exactly. Or if you're expecting us to race toward this neat, tidy conclusion wrapped up with a bow, well, that is just not what we're doing today.
No, we are actually doing the exact opposite.
Right.
We are stepping back to look at the invisible premises of our daily lives. So this is a space for incomplete thoughts and, pending questions.
Because we're all living in the middle of this massive transitional period.
We really are.
And because of that, the thoughts we explore today, they don't need to be closed. They're going to be deliberately left wide open.
And we should probably warn you, because we are observing how language, technology, and human judgment all interact during this vast shift.
This real-time shift, yeah.
Right, real time.
Yeah.
Because of that, some parts of this observation might feel slightly unnatural. It might evoke a subtle discomfort as you listen.
Yeah, a little bit of friction.
Exactly. But we want to assure you that this discomfort is entirely intentional. We are not going to correct it or smooth it over for the sake of an easy listen.
We're going to sit with it.
Yeah, we're going to sit with it, and we invite you to sit with it too.
Okay, let's unpack this. The first observation Tommy Yoshida brings to the table is about something we interact with constantly.
Right, every single day.
But we rarely view it as a structure that governs us. I'm talking about the invisible financial machine we are all living inside of.
Yeah.
When I say the word finance, what is the very first image that comes to your mind?
For me, and probably for most people listening, it's the stock market. You turn on the morning news or you open an app on your phone and there is the Nikkei stock average or the Dow Jones or the S&P 500.
With the little green arrow pointing up.
Or red arrow pointing down, exactly. And we treat those numbers exactly like a daily weather forecast.
Yes. We look at the market index and we say, it's a sunny day in the financial world, or, looks like a storm is coming.
But treating it like the weather, it creates this psychological distance.
How so?
Well, it makes us assume finance is this external force. Like it's something happening out there on trading floors in New York or Tokyo, completely far removed from our living rooms.
Right, like it's happening to someone else.
Exactly. But Yoshida points out that this is an illusion.
A total illusion. If we look closely at his specific examples, you start to see how we actually live inside finance now.
We're swimming in it.
We really are. I mean, think about your own daily routine. When was the last time you physically took out a wallet, counted out paper money, and handed it to a cashier?
Oh, wow. I honestly can't remember.
Right. For many of us, that's becoming an incredibly rare event. Instead, you just hover your smartphone over a terminal at the grocery store.
A little beep and you're done.
The payment is finalized in a fraction of a second, but it goes so much deeper than just buying a coffee.
It really does. Think about the underlying plumbing of your life.
The plumbing, yeah.
The electricity bills, the communication fees, the 6 different streaming subscriptions you might have totally forgotten you even pay for.
Oh, guilty.
Right. And they're all deducted automatically. We rarely visit insurance counters to sign stacks of physical paper anymore.
No, never.
Everything from policy updates to filing claims, it is finalized silently inside an app.
And here is where it gets really interesting. Because into this incredibly seamless, frictionless financial life, AI has quietly slipped in.
Quietly being the operative word there.
Exactly. It hasn't kicked the door down like some sci-fi villain. It just, walked in through the back door of convenience.
Yeah.
Think about what Yoshida observes here. When you apply for a loan now, the screening isn't just a human loan officer looking at your application, tapping a pencil and making a judgment call.
Not anymore.
That human is often the very last step of a massive computational process.
Right, because the screening is pre-organized by machines. And we really need to understand the mechanism behind this.
It's not just a simple calculation.
No, it's not just checking your bank balance. These algorithms are ingesting thousands of invisible data points. Your purchasing history, your location data.
The microtransactions you make every single day.
All of it. Insurance quotes are auto-generated based on actuarial models that have weighed millions of variables before a human agent even knows your name.
It's staggering when you think about the scale.
It is. And if you have a problem with any of this, the very first response you get when you ask for help is almost never a human anymore.
Nope, it's a chatbot.
Exactly. It's an AI chatbot routing you through a preset decision tree.
Okay, but wait, let me push back on that for a second.
Sure.
As a consumer, isn't this efficiency exactly what I want? I mean, if I'm applying for a mortgage or trying to get car insurance, I don't want hesitation or a human taking 3 weeks to manually review my file.
You just want the result.
Right, I want it done in 3 seconds. So why is algorithmic efficiency being framed as a potential issue here?
Well, it's not that the efficiency itself is inherently bad,
Okay.
but this raises a really important question about the nature of judgment. These AI systems are operating in the space of prejudgment.
Prejudgment.
Right. Before a human makes a final call, or before you make a final decision on auto-generated quote, the machine has already framed the reality for you.
It's set the menu.
Exactly. The options have been curated. The data has been weighted. By the time the human is even in the loop, the boundaries of the decision have already been drawn by an algorithm that's optimizing for the institution's risk, not necessarily your context.
You know, it feels like stepping onto an airport moving walkway.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Like you walk up to it, you step on, and you think you're still choosing your own walking speed. You think you are in control of your steps.
Right, you feel like you're just walking.
But the machine has already dictated your momentum. It is doing the heavy lifting before you even consciously decide to walk faster.
The physics of that analogy work perfectly, because the moving walkway isn't forcing you to a destination you didn't choose.
Yeah.
But it fundamentally alters the premise of your movement.
The premise, yes.
And that is exactly where the subtle discomfort Yoshida observes comes into play. We are being assisted. The walkway helps you get to your gate faster.
The AI helps you get your insurance quote in 3 seconds.
Exactly. But this technological assistance is slowly, quietly transforming into the unbreakable premise of our daily actions.
It becomes the ground we walk on.
Yes.
We forget how to walk on solid ground because the walkway is always moving beneath us. The environment is anticipating us, organizing us, and formatting our financial lives before we have even articulated what we need.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we see that we've built this financial machine that entirely eliminates the friction of waiting.
Right.
But the exact same algorithmic principles that eliminate financial friction are now being applied to human cognition. They're being applied to our conversations.
Oh, this is the really wild part. To really grasp this, we need to look at the English section of Yoshida's observation, which requires us to step into a Japanese linguistic environment.
Yes, this context is crucial.
Yoshida is writing from a Japanese context, and the structure of spoken Japanese completely changes how we think about communication and meaning.
It's a completely different paradigm.
Like, in English, we often think of meaning as a package. I have an idea, I wrap it up in a sentence, and I hand it to you.
Right, like a delivery.
Exactly. If I speak clearly, the package is delivered perfectly on the first try.
But in a Japanese linguistic environment, meaning doesn't work like a pre-wrapped package.
Not at all.
Meaning is shaped gradually. It is formed through pauses, through revisions mid-sentence, and significantly through silence.
I want to make this really concrete for you listening. In spoken Japanese, it is incredibly common to trail off at the end of a sentence.
Very common.
A speaker might say something like, "That proposal looks really interesting, Kido," which translates roughly to "but" or "however."
Right.
And then they just stop talking. They leave the sentence totally unfinished. In English, that might feel like an interruption or a loss of train of thought.
Like you forgot what you were going to say.
Yeah. But in Japanese, that trailing off is an invitation.
The hesitation is the actual structure of the communication. Leaving the thought incomplete is not noise getting in the way of the signal.
It's intentional.
Right. It is a feature, not a bug.
Mm.
By leaving the end of the sentence blank, the speaker forces the listener to read the room, to interpret the context, and to co-create the conclusion.
Co-create the conclusion. I love that.
The meaning is meant to be softened. It is intentionally left open so the two of you can walk around the idea together, leaving room for adjustment.
What's fascinating here is Yoshida's core insight about how AI collides with this deeply human way of communicating.
Quite a collision.
When we interact with an AI, whether we're talking to a voice assistant or typing a prompt into a large language model, How does the machine handle that kind of intentional hesitation?
It doesn't handle it at all.
Not at all.
No, it mathematically cannot compute hesitation. We have to look at the mechanism of how a large language model works. An LLM doesn't understand your sentence the way a human does.
Right, it's not reading the room.
Exactly. It calculates probability distributions. It is designed to predict the next most statistically likely token or word based on the text you've provided. So when you pause or when you hesitate, the system doesn't see a shared space for co-creation.
It sees a void.
It sees a prompt to generate the highest probability completion. It abhors a vacuum.
So it rushes in to fill a silence. The system tends to finalize our meaning far too early.
Way too early.
The AI assumes that your very first coherent output is sufficient. It takes that first string of words and says, got it, I know what you mean, here is the answer.
Yep.
And Yoshida makes a vital distinction here. It's not necessarily that the AI is technically wrong in its comprehension of the words. Rather, it is a timing issue.
A timing issue. That's exactly it.
The AI decides what we mean while we are still in the middle of forming the thought.
Because the machine's entire architecture is built to eliminate latency and resolve variables into absolute outputs. But if the machine locks in my meaning on the first try, we have to ask, where does the margin go?
Yeah. Where does the margin go? I'm trying to wrap my head around the real-world consequence here.
It's significant.
If the system takes my first draft as my final draft, I lose the blank spaces. I lose that crucial room. I need to wander around the concept to realize mid-sentence that I actually meant something slightly different.
Which happens all the time in normal conversation.
Constantly. If the AI responds instantly, with total confidence, based on my half-formed prompt, the margin just evaporates. The space to change my mind is gone.
That loss of the margin is profound because we don't just use language to express fully formed thoughts.
No, we really don't.
We use language to figure out what we are thinking in the first place.
The speaking is the thinking.
Yes. The drafting is the thinking. If the machine intercepts the thought at the 20% mark and finalizes it, the human on the other side of the screen is robbed of the messy, necessary process of cognitive wandering.
So what does this all mean?
Wow.
If the machine decides our meaning before we finish speaking, and it organizes our loans before we finish calculating our budgets, we're left in this very strange position.
We really are.
We are highly efficient, but we are structurally constrained.
And Yoshida warns about the accumulation of the gap.
The gap.
Right. Once the AI makes a decision on what we mean, the interaction proceeds as if that meaning is entirely stable. The AI builds its response on that premature foundation.
Okay, I see.
This creates a tiny gap between what the human originally intended to explore and where the machine is currently leading them.
You know, let's go back to that Gmail autocomplete example we started with. In a single interaction, that gap is microscopic.
Unnoticeable, almost.
Right. You are typing an email to a colleague. You want to sound collaborative, but you're a bit annoyed. You type, I think we should, and the AI suggests, revisit the timeline immediately.
Obviously.
It's a slightly more aggressive tone than you intended, but it sounds professional and it's right there on the screen. So you just hit tab. You accept the autocomplete. It's a tiny gap.
But Yoshida's point is that this gap accumulates over time.
It builds up.
If every interaction we have with these systems involves this slight premature locking in of meaning, it doesn't just change how we communicate with the machine.
No.
Over hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of interactions, it may quietly influence how we think.
Wow.
We might start molding our thoughts to fit the machine's timing. We might stop exploring the margins because the machine doesn't reward hesitation.
It rewards certainty. It rewards resolution, even if the certainty is completely artificial.
And if assistance becomes the premise, if the moving walkway is always running, and the AI is always finalizing your thoughts, who is responsible for the outcome?
That's the million-dollar question.
This brings us to the ultimate question from Yoshida's text. When meaning becomes fixed, who is still allowed to change it?
Wow. Just let that sink in for a second. When meaning becomes fixed, who is still allowed to change it?
It's heavy.
Because if the AI has decided what you mean and you just go along with it because hitting tab is easier than wrestling with your own ambiguity, the role of the human has shifted. You are no longer the sole author of your intent.
The timing of meaning shifts even slightly. The role of the human shifts with it.
Just a millimeter at a time.
And as Yoshida notes, this doesn't happen dramatically. There are no alarms going off. Nobody is declaring that human thought has been outsourced.
It just happens quietly.
It happens in the mundane moments. It happens while you are paying your electricity bill or answering a Tuesday morning email.
You know, sitting here talking about this, there is a very real temptation to try and solve it.
Oh, absolutely.
To say, well, here is how you should prompt the AI to give you more margin, or here is the new mental framework you need to adopt to beat algorithmic prejudgment.
I want a quick fix.
Exactly. But staying true to our mission today, we aren't going to do that. We are going to sit with the unfinished thought. We are going to allow ourselves to feel the discomfort of this transition.
It's important to embrace that slight awkwardness. We are recognizing that our tools are currently outpacing our natural human hesitations.
They're just too fast.
The machines are built for speed and resolution, while human cognition, especially in its most creative, empathetic, and nuanced forms, often requires delay, ambiguity, and revision. We need the keto. We need the trailing off.
There really is a beauty to the unfinished thought, isn't there? The fact that you and I can be talking, and I can start a sentence, realize it's going the completely wrong way, pause, look at the ceiling, and you don't immediately generate a 5-point summary of my mistake.
I wouldn't dream of it.
You just wait. You read the room. You give me the blank space to find my way back.
Human conversation is incredibly tolerant of the messy process of meaning-making. We intuitively understand that the first thing out of someone's mouth is rarely their deepest truth.
It's just a draft.
It's just a starting point. It's the rough draft spoken out loud. But a computational system doesn't have the capacity for that kind of intuitive patience. It optimizes for output.
And maybe that's the core of the discomfort Yoshida is feeling. It's not a fear of a dystopian AI taking over the world and launching missiles.
No, it's much quieter than that.
It's a subtle mourning for the loss of the wandering thought. It's the realization that when everything is pre-organized, your finances, your schedules, your very sentences, you are incredibly efficient, but you are also slightly trapped by your own first impulses.
Trapped by the first coherent output.
Yeah.
And that changes the nature of responsibility.
How so?
Because if the machine is structuring the interaction based on a premature assumption of your intent, and you accept that structure because it is convenient, who really owns that interaction?
Right.
You might be the one clicking send or tapping agree on the auto-generated insurance policy, but the shape of the meaning, the boundaries of the reality, were co-authored by a system that mathematically couldn't wait for you to finish thinking.
Which brings us back to the premise we established at the very beginning of this deep dive. We promised you no neat conclusions today.
No neat bows.
We promised that we would leave these thoughts in the margin, honoring the fact that we are all living through a vast transition. Language, technology, and human judgment are renegotiating their boundaries right now, as we speak, in your pocket, on your desk, and in the invisible financial networks humming around us.
It is vital that we allow ourselves to observe this shift without immediately rushing to fix it or categorize it.
We just have to watch it.
The discomfort we feel when the machine jumps the gun or when we realize we didn't actually choose our momentum on the walkway, the discomfort is a crucial part of the observation. We have to be willing to feel it.
So, as we leave these thoughts wide open for you, we want to leave you with one final, lingering question to mull over as you go about the rest of your day.
Something to think about.
Think about that moving walkway at the airport. Think about the weather forecast of the stock market that hides the reality of the algorithms prejudging your digital wallet. If the silent algorithms in your wallet are predicting your spending and the text prompts on your screen are finishing your sentences before you do, where in your day do you still have the luxury of a completely unfinished, unassisted thought? And more importantly, how hard are you willing to fight to protect that blank space?